Around 3,000 years ago, the greatest empires of the entire ancient world vanished completely into dark ashes now. Welcome to History Now Studios. Today, we deeply blend cold historical facts with epic myths to explore absolute collapse. In the late Bronze Age, human civilization achieved a truly magnificent peak of vast wealth and brilliant global trading. The mighty Egyptian pharaohs, the fierce Mycenaean kings, and the vast Hittite empire ruled over a grand golden age now. They were deeply interconnected by a highly complex economic web, relying heavily on massive trade routes to survive then. But in the fateful year of 1177 before Christ, this massive and glorious world completely shattered now. Within a single, deeply terrifying generation, every major kingdom was brutally destroyed, abandoned, or heavily burned. In our original fantasy universes, massive magical cataclysms or dark dragons destroy entire kingdoms in a single night. But the dark, horrifying reality of the Bronze Age collapse remains one of history's absolute deepest unsolved mysteries. What truly terrifying force could completely annihilate the most advanced and highly fortified human societies on the map? Ancient clay tablets frantically recorded desperate pleas for urgent military help from starving, terrified adult rulers. The king of Ugarit wrote desperately to his allies, stating that enemy ships had arrived and burned his massive cities. These utterly terrifying unknown invaders are heavily known to modern historians simply as the mysterious Sea Peoples now. They arrived on massive dark wooden ships, completely destroying coastal cities with absolute and unyielding brutal force. But these fierce raiders were likely not the root cause of the massive collapse, but rather desperate refugees of crisis. Massive geological evidence heavily points to a truly devastating, decades-long drought that scorched the entire region. The beautiful golden wheat fields completely withered into dry, cracking dust, causing a massive global famine to spread. Without highly necessary food, the massive ancient cities quickly descended into absolute chaos and violent civil unrest. Massive and truly terrifying earthquakes simultaneously rocked the eastern Mediterranean, shattering huge stone fortresses. This perfect, truly apocalyptic storm of absolute famine, war, and natural disaster heavily broke the global supply chain. The highly fragile and deeply interconnected global economy completely collapsed, plunging the world into a dark age now. The heavily guarded massive palace economies completely failed, leaving thousands of desperate adults to fight for food. Once mighty kings were violently overthrown by their own deeply starving citizens in brutal and bloody urban rebellions. The grand skill of writing and massive monumental architecture were completely forgotten for over 400 long years. When the dark smoke finally cleared, only the mighty Egyptian empire barely survived the absolute and terrifying onslaught. But Egypt was deeply and permanently crippled, completely losing its vast imperial glory and massive territorial holdings. The sudden fall of these great empires created a massive power vacuum, completely altering the dark course of human time. It paved the way for brand new, highly resilient societies like the Phoenicians and the ancient Israelites to slowly rise. The terrifying story of the Bronze Age collapse is a truly profound and dark warning for our heavily interconnected globe. It heavily proves that even the absolute most advanced and powerful human civilizations are incredibly fragile and weak too. When deeply complex supply lines break down, the massive illusion of total security completely vanishes in a single flash. We deeply love to imagine dark fantasy worlds where pure magic totally fails, leaving adult humanity alone in the shadows. But the absolute stark reality of the ancient Mediterranean demonstrates that nature itself is the true ultimate master. No massive wall of heavy stone or incredibly fierce army can completely stop a starving, truly desperate adult population. The ancient ruins deeply whisper a dark, haunting lesson. Survival absolutely demands deep flexibility and massive change. The grand arrogance of the Bronze Age elites totally blinded them to the deeply terrifying and truly fragile world systems. They falsely believed their massive golden gods and heavy iron swords would always protect their deeply corrupted empires. Instead, they were violently swallowed by the dark sands of time, leaving only deeply shattered and burned clay tablets. Today, we must heavily heed the dark warnings of the ancient past to protect our incredibly massive modern global economy. We are completely bound together by highly fragile digital trade routes, perfectly mirroring the doomed ancient kings now. At History Now Studios, we merge these truly terrifying historical facts with epic myths to explore human vulnerability. The truly profound collapse of a civilization is a vastly terrifying drama that absolute fantasy magic cannot ever match. What absolute terrifying historical mystery or truly dark epic fantasy lore should we actively explore in our next story? Please remember that true human history is completely written in both the glorious bright light and the truly darkest ash. Thank you for walking through the deep shadows with us today. Subscribe to History Now Studios for absolute epic reality.